whole hooks, 100-year-old hook thing. So what ends up happening is there was actually legislation that they were talking about billing people who have solar panels would get like a minimum charge for a solar panel, which basically was for the power companies. And if they do that, I totally want to, like, I would totally put enough solar panels on my house to cover all my needs and whatnot, and then literally have them cut my power to the grid.
Yeah.
So that I would rather do that, have batteries and everything else, and I would run totally independently and fuck the power companies, because I'm not paying them money because I was smart and put solar panels on my house.
Right.
If they don't want the net metering stuff, then fine. Don't buy my power. Don't care. But I don't need yours. And to then charge me, I think, and the thing was, they were charging something like, I think it was, I can't remember, it was $8 or $80, like per kilowatt, was what the proposal was. So it was, you would get, I think it was, you were going to get like an $80 power bill no matter what.
Right.
Even if you use no power from the grid. And it's like, no.
Yeah, this is just anecdotal, but a friend of mine, she's a property manager, for one of these big, high rises and everything. And she's told me that there has been talk, like within the company, about, it's like, yeah, so they go off into a new, development area. There was nothing even, and so, they burn, they tear down the old houses and they build up these new condos. But the idea being that they build up these new condos with solar power and their own mini grid, so that this property of theirs is like completely independent of the local city grid, and
that's what I want.
They see this as like an opportunity, to not only charge these people for the rents, or to lease but also help provide them power and be their power company and everything. And there's certainly legislation saying it's like, well, you can't be that's kind of like having somebody by the neck kind of a thing. But at the same time, they're arguing it's like, well, we could actually provide power for cheaper and the independence of your grid. And again, there should be a tax break. But there is this that very same thinking. So you have this community of like 300 apartments, and when the power goes out, they're the only ones with power still on because they're on their own grid. They've got solar panels and their own generators to like carry them through the night. It's like, that's kind of a cool idea.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
welcome back.
Thanks.
Just getting caught up here on chat. Rute says the not in my backyard mentality prevents that. Yeah. There's a way for carbon capture. It requires dumping iron dust in the ocean to promote algae bloom. Takes out carbon from water, dies, and then sinks to the ocean floor.
Yeah, but it also sucks all the air out of the water.
Also has this other problem.
Yeah, the problem with algae blooms is it actually sucks all the oxygen out of the air. Yeah, because what ends up happening is the algae explodes, pumps the ocean full of oxygen, but then the bacteria population that feeds on that oxygen and the algae then explodes, sucks all the oxygen out of the area, and then suddenly all the fish are dying because there's no oxygen. This is actually what caused one of the first mass extinctions on Earth. Was actually blooms, like algae blooms like that, is what they think actually killed the very first, like, of the big 5 mass extinctions. They actually think it was caused by massive algae blooms like that.
On System Root 2, it's only kind of sort of ironic with the solar panel stuff being on their roofs, but yes, terrible NIMBYism. My theory is that it will work itself out once it's on a roll, but I'm also optimistic with the chart. Also, this is, I was working, in lighting and electric at the time, and you're watching all this stuff happen with like just LEDs and, greater energy efficiency. And one of our contractors that we worked with, they also did solar panels. And when they first started, it's like, oh, how is that going? It's rough, man. It's like, every third panel we get is actually a dud, and we can't use it, so we have to throw it away or get it, And it takes a crew. He says it takes a crew of 6 people to, just put solar panels on an average house-sized house one day. It's like, wow, that's rough and everything, whatever. But like, just maybe like the next year, he was saying it's like, oh, it's actually gotten a lot better. It's like, again, a lot of these panels are coming from China. He says, yeah, the quality's gotten a lot better. I haven't had a bad panel in like 6 months. And now, before it used to take me, all day for a crew of 6 to do one house. Now a crew of 2 can do 2 houses in a day.
Yep.
And it says, yeah, they just lock in the place now. And, so a lot of that technology, it's just like, it's hard at the start, it really is to get anything started. But like Lee was saying, like Madonna and everybody said, it's like once you get a little bit of momentum and people start seeing the benefits of it and they just get used to this new idea, the innovations start coming in. Because he says like, these things like, now before you had to like cable all this stuff together and now they don't even match up, or it's all written in Chinese and everything. And he said, like later on, he says, now it's not even written in Chinese. It just has like, literally says you put the green tab into the green slot, and it'll turn on.
Now it's written in IKEA.
Yeah, exactly. It does. Yeah, not even. Yeah, now it's written in IKEA.
Pictograms.
Yes.
IKEA hieroglyphs.
It's gotten so easy. It's so much easier.
That's what I want to see. I want to see the archaeologist, like 1,000 years from now, 5,000 years from now, they dig up a IKEA catalog.
We're going to be around.
Well, I didn't say it had to be a human.
That's true.
Right. Madonna says to Rutu, people are fighting that too, not my oceanic oxygen void. Rutu says, I hate HOA. Madonna says, I'm getting the sense more and more, though, that the world has given up going on a diet and is instead going full liposuction. The proof is that we're now looking more into tech that directly takes CO2 out of the atmosphere, and we're doing cloud seeding instead of going on a fossil fuel diet. Yes.
Yep.
Russo was also saying Australia had the problem of too much solar, inconsistent time, the utilities can't control. Yeah, no, but I think also we've learned a lot from Australia. It's like, okay, I'm glad that they did that. Glad it wasn't us, but we can learn from them.
Well, that's actually why Tesla had the world's largest battery is in Australia. Tesla built it for their power grid to solve that problem Rurutu is talking about.
What do you guys...
Look, Fuji, I bet every 3 solar panels are dead because they were buying them both for Fry's electronics. Exactly, and look where Fry's is now.
What was that, Steve?
What do you guys think of... I just saw recently that I think by 2035 in California there's going to be no gas-powered cars.
Believe it or not,
like
that
new cars.
That's actually what started this conversation.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was gone.
Nope, no. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the party, pal.
Yes, Steve.
I kept the stream on. I just had the volume off, so I wasn't able to
Oh, no.
actually hear you guys.
Oh, that's fine. You're fine. And I'm
Yeah,
quoting Die Hard. So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's. I don't know what the power implications are. I think environmentally, it's a good thing. I say this as like someone who has a very base knowledge about how all this stuff works.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty strong proponent for the environment. I have some views that may not be well received by the vast majority of the human population. I think we're I feel a little bit like Agent Smith in The Matrix when he's talking to Neo.
you're a virus.
About how we are as a species. We do some pretty awful things. And I think if there's any steps that we can take to help the environment, people keep saying like, oh, we're going to destroy the planet. I'm like, no, the planet will be fine. We'll just be gone.
It's a very George Carlin view.
Yeah. George Carlin's like, no, the planet will shake us off like a dog with fleas. Like, we're the ones who are, and unfortunately, all of the living things that are subjugated to our destructiveness. So I think generally speaking, in terms of like sorry. In terms of like helping the environment, I'm all for that. Again, I don't know what that means. Like, how is the power generated?
Hmm.
Because I know like sometimes that is the power generated to power our electric cars. Is that being done by fossil fuels? Is that being done? Is that being done by natural gas? You know, stuff like that. Like
Renewables, yeah.
I don't really know those answers, but obviously we all are aware of and can accept by now that like CO2 emissions by cars is not great. So whatever we can do to cut that down, I'm all for. Um, I just think it's interesting what's going to happen for people who are like, I have my classic car. Like, what's going to happen to gas stations? Are they going to be like converted to like solar fast charge stations?
Ooh, I have a partial answer for you, believe it or not, on what will happen to gas stations. So gas stations, not anytime soon, but probably like, 50, 60 years from now, will pretty much be obsolete. There might be a couple of scattered ones here and there in the major metropolitan areas. But assuming that they keep pushing electric vehicles the way they are, pure electric vehicles, not hybrids. As long as you've got hybrids, you'll have gas stations. But once the hybrids go away, the gas stations will start disappearing. In fact, actually, just think back to 20 years ago. There was actually a crap load of gas stations all disappeared in California. And the reason is because they changed the environmental law for the tanks. The rating that the tanks that were holding the gas had to have so that they didn't pollute the water supply, water tables.
True.
So a bunch of gas stations
Did.
a bunch of gas stations in Southern California just poof disappeared, pretty much overnight, because it was more cost effective to stop selling gas than it was to dig up your entire property and build a new tank. So so eventually, once the hybrids go away or at least phase out significantly, the gas stations will also phase out. Now, what will probably end up happening is people who have gas engines still, their solution is actually going to be transferring over to biodiesel. And so the idea is for roughly, I think it's less than $150 right now, you can actually convert a gasoline engine into a biodiesel engine with just a few couple of components attached to your fuel line. And
So
you
what?
can now use your cooking grease from your kitchen or from, just go down and hijack the grease pit at Denny's and you could refuel your car running a filtration system at your house.
What does that mean for like high performance vehicles though? Like say you have a sports car, like
Oh,
is
yeah. I don't know that anybody with a Ferrari, though, is really that concerned about where they're going to get their next tank of gas from.
Yeah, I think if
well
you can
okay,
afford a
like
Ferrari, I think you're probably going to be able to afford to have, your gas shipped in or something.
right. So like for example, one of the items we came in possession of when Madison's father passed away, he has a Porsche that is now ours. And I'm like, cool. Like, is there a way? Can I convert this car to like an electric one? Is
Yes.
like is that going to be an option down the line as well to like take
Already
your
is.
existing cars?
There's a company that converts Jeep Grand Cherokees into electric vehicles right now.
Yeah.
So eventually,
Uh,
what will happen, and a lot of people are doing home conversions. So
yeah.
when the Nissan Leaf left the market, when it pretty much, we're not when it started leaving the market, I should say. I think it's still on the market. But when it started leaving the market, or even like the Volt or the Bolt or whichever one it was, the Chevy,
Chevy.
what ended up happening was those batteries are still good. Their batteries weren't
Yeah.
bad at all, and the motors were good. So people actually started taking those components, the batteries and the motors, gutting actual, ICE engines, internal combustion engines. So they would like gut an ICE vehicle and basically fill it with batteries and these electric motors and connect it to the powertrain, bypass the transmission, and boom, you've got yourself an electric vehicle. So there's a lot of DIY people that are doing that right now. So eventually there'll probably be places that do that where they scrap old electric vehicles and they use it to customize electric motors and stuff for old ICE vehicles. And there's actually a guy who does this with Teslas right now. I can't remember his name, but basically it's like if you have a Tesla Roadster, one of the original, the very first Tesla on the road, Tesla no longer supports those. So one of the engineers who helped build it,
Just like the Apple 5.
so one of the guys, one of the engineers who actually helped design and build it, started a company that they have a team of people that does nothing but scour the internet, constantly looking for news reports or inventories from junkyards of where Tesla Roadsters end up. And they've been scrapping or scrounging all the parts. And so they'll get a Tesla Roadster that was totaled in an accident, buy it for parts, and from that they'll be able to build, like with all their other pieces they've got, they can build like 3 or 4 new Tesla Roadsters. So, their entire purpose is basically salvaging and repurposing, stuff that's already on the market. Well, taking that same business model kind of mentality and convert it to a Porsche. You can now scrap, a Nissan Leaf or, a Tesla with the 4860 batteries and stuff in it, or 4680, I forgot which was, but I think it's 4860. But the new batteries that Tesla's come out with for the structural battery packs, you'll be able to actually, those are basically just giant D-cell batteries, just massive looking batteries that are inside kits, and all somebody's got to do is 3D print that system of holding the batteries together and running the conduits through it, and that's fair. Like, I can do that, and I don't have an electrical degree, and I've done it with smaller things with batteries before. When I had to daisy chain a bunch of CR2032 batteries together to jury rig an electrical project I was working on with some friends. So I'm not even an electrical engineer, and I'm capable of that. So yeah,
it's something that you can do.
Yep.
Yeah,
but yeah, so that will exist.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't scrap that. Is it a Porsche 911? Tell me it's a Porsche 911.
It is.
Fantastic. Yeah, don't touch it. You just enjoy the ride. You're not going to have to do anything with it for a long, long, long time. Because the gas station isn't going to go anywhere anytime
Sure.
soon, and you're not going to drive it that often anyway.
No, we don't.
But it will be fun, to get that, you use that grand touringness of it every now and again to go up and down the coast. That's a lot of fun. But yeah,
it's a convertible, so yeah, putting the top down and driving along the coast is like.
That's gonna be so much great. That's gonna be so great.
Lee, you didn't see it, but when we came down to see you for Free Comic Book Day, that's what we came down in.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I knew a buddy of mine. He did it as a summer project. He had this was it Volkswagen, the Thing? I think that's what it was called.
Yep.
I think Volkswagen, yeah. And he had been trying to repair it for a long time, and there was always and he got it moving every now and again, but there was always an engine problem. And then he showed up one day and it was working, and it's like, hey, you got it to work. He says, yeah, I put an electric engine in it. It's like, awesome. So yeah, it was a summer project for him. So he scrapped trying to repair the old engine, just took everything out, converted it to electric, and it took him 4 months to do. But it's like, yeah, there's a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And I nearly only killed myself twice, so but yeah, he did it. And the Thing is probably the best, a really great car, because if nothing else, it's fairly indestructible, and there's a lot of space, so he was able to do this. But yeah. It was good. So I think for a Porsche, you probably want to have a specialist do it. But again, I don't think you're going to have to worry about that.
Yeah. I've been in a few electric vehicles, Teslas and some others, and I gotta say I really do like them.
Yeah. They are, though, like one comedian she called it says it's like, yeah, those Priuses though, they will sneak up on you like a panther in the grocery shop.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't even know that they're there, and then just like bam, they hit you or whatever, or they're backing away or whatever.
I have heard in some electric vehicles there's what I'm only assuming is an artificial sound, like a whir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if that's something that is just going to be standard, because or is that an option you can turn it on and off?
Well, I don't know if you can turn them on and off, but I know Tesla has them, and I think it can be turned off. But Tesla has one that's customizable. So they actually have it.
The sight impaired people have said as much. It's like, we need to have something, because
we can't hear that damn thing.
Or at least we're not listening for an electric car. We can hear an engine hum. We can feel heat.
But I loved.
Basically, a golf cart sneaking up on us, and they will walk right out in front of you.
But there was some guy actually posted a video I saw one time online, but it was he replaced whatever the audio track in his Tesla was with KIT.
Oh, that's good.
So everywhere he goes, his car goes like the eyeball on KIT.
Yeah. I would have my passive sound as the Motley Crue's "Kickstart My Heart," just like turned down to about 3. But I would like just have that opening, going on all the time.
Sammy Hagar's "I Can't Drive 55,"
I can't drive 55.
otherwise known as his Van Halen audition tape.
Ish Dahlia says, first time chatter says, well, hello there, Lee. If I may, while I may be too much of a Philistine for the finer price, I very much enjoy the Lovecraft influence and sketch feel and sound I can experience.
Nice. Yeah, so this is...
tell them what you're working on, what it's for.
This is actually this is the official artwork for the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. So this will be the movie poster promotional artwork that they use at the festival. So it'll have the Lovecraft logo will be here, and then they're going to put the dates and stuff down here, and guest information and whatnot. So yeah, should be a blast. It's a very busy piece for the amount of data they want, which is why I'm going to have it totally fade to black, so that just in case they can actually shrink it a little bit, and then they have even more black space to put information if they need to find places to squeeze it. But yeah, this is the pencils for that poster. I probably won't. I'm not sure if I'll be able to ink the original on stream, just because it's going to be bigger than this. So as you know, I'm already having some issues. Like, this is the maximum I can have, a little less than like 23.5 inches. Going up this way. So to fit here, and the piece we're probably going to draw on is probably going to be, I think it's, I don't remember if it was 23 by 29 or if it was 24 by 40. But one of those. So 40 inches won't fit here. So I may end up having to draw it actually off camera, just because, again, it won't fit. But yeah. Anyways, that's what I'm working on. Should be a lot of blast. Should be a blast. I'm enjoying it. But I'm glad you like it too.
What Val was saying earlier, my most optimistic ice combustion engine type fuel is that we'll still have it for a long mile cross-country and extremely power-hungry engines. Yeah, probably like industrial vehicles. Although, I remember they were talking about converting the entire postal service U.S. Postal Service over to electric vehicles. I thought that'd be a great place to start. I know that kind of stalled, but yeah, I think that something like that needs to be done. And I think we touched on this. We can move on, but obviously it's like, yes, it's like, well, we're just trading fossil fuels for heavy metals in all of these batteries to power these things, and then it costs like a lot of fuel to make all the plastics and everything that's going to, so it's not like we're kind of saving it that way. It's like,
well, actually, there's a difference there, and that's the thing that people don't realize is, at the moment, there's a big environmental impact for building the cars and whatnot.
Yes.
And it's higher than the impact of building an ICE vehicle on the environment. However, once that vehicle's built, eventually the infrastructure that powers it is anticipated to be totally clean, renewable, or carbon neutral negative.
Exactly.
In which case, that electric vehicle will, its initial contribution to global problems will be there, but it will as far as its continuous usage, will power down. Like I right now have 2 ICE vehicles. I've got a 40th anniversary Mustang that I bought my wife for her birthday way back in the day, and she loves that car, so we're not replacing it yet. And I've got my 97 Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is the first time I went out, well, second car I ever bought. And it's a 1997. It's old. It's got almost 300,000 miles on it or more. But I don't drive anywhere. it's absolutely pointless for me to buy another car. However, if I can get we're trying to get modifications made to my house. If I can get the modifications made to my house that I want to make, we're going to get the roof redone, and part of that is going to be including electric. And the moment I have electric, we'll basically see how much we'll get the estimate for how much power we have to do. We'll get power walls, all that good stuff, batteries, so that we can run as much as possible off the grid is my goal.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to plan for it to power 3 electric vehicles. So I'm going to plan ahead when I buy the roof, that I want it to power 3 electric vehicles. And once I have that, and by the way, we're also talking about converting the house to a passive house. So we're once we get the foundation issues fixed and whatnot, we're actually talking with a company that will actually come through the house and try to figure out how to convert our existing 60-year-old home into a passive home, which requires less heating and no heating and cooling, essentially.
Exactly.
So we're working on that as well. But so my goal eventually is that we will be, as far as our existence, and keep in mind, we also eat most of the food that we eat, the fresh produce and stuff comes out of our garden. And I don't really see us as being like hippies or anything like that. Like, I don't see us as being like I see us as being environmentally responsible. But, and also I think it's stupid. Well, I don't like spending money on shit I don't have to.
Right.
And if I can get power for free from the sun, I'm going to do that, But I also do believe, much like Steven does, that we're screwing up the planet. And the reason I have the mentality I do, it's a little less environmental, save the planet kind of stuff, and more what's in it for me, because I think you have to have that kind of mentality, because it keeps you from being a self-righteous prick, which is like that's the whole Prius, the smog pollution joke
from South Park.
Yeah, that was the smog is coming from California. Yeah, it's just everybody was smug about their Prius. But I do think that if you can do something for the right reasons, but capitalize on it, if you can find a way to make money and do the right thing in the same process, as opposed to just make money for the sake of making money, then you can actually form an entire business model on it, and hopefully encourage other people to do the same. As love him or hate him, it's one of the things that Elon Musk does that I kind of respect, in the sense that he wanted to force the world away from ICE vehicles, because remember, before Tesla, everybody kept saying you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. Now you've got people 2035, it has to be done by 2035 or screw you guys. So he has literally done exactly what he set out to do, what he said to do, and that is force the industry to change, because nobody wanted to change it. So he went and changed how cars were built, and he went and found a way for all these people to make millions of dollars investing in his thing that everybody told him you couldn't do. And that's why it's successful, is not because that he's amazing or anything like that, but he found a way to capitalize, to actually to commercialize something that has a positive, net influence. And, if you can figure out a way to do that with anything, I think that that's actually where you disrupt an industry. So, and which is what he's done with rockets and also with cars. And so I kind of like that, I guess I can keep talking for like 20 minutes on this subject, but yeah, I like that aspect of his business model. And it's like, I don't like paying a lot for groceries. Groceries are costing a lot. So I started a garden, and I think I put like $1,500 into the garden, and it took about 3-4 months before we started seeing any food out of it. But now we're actually seeing plenty of food out of it. And here soon, we might not even, we have a salsa garden is what we started with. We started small. And
that's great.
I can literally go in my backyard and grab all the ingredients I need to make salsa. And now we have potatoes and everything else. This morning we harvested marigold seeds so that we can plant marigolds. Our front yard, which we didn't know what to put out there. We have planted nasturtiums, which they're basically a local weed that grows in our local mountains and whatnot. So they're regional to this area, but they are also edible. You can make salads out of them. So we now have a salad weed growing in our front yard.
Excellent.
Instead of a lawn.
What variety of marigold?
I don't know.
Marigolds for, what if I get too...
I do want to sit down with Sapporo's, because Sapporo's has a green thumb like a... So he's full of all kinds of data that I want.
I have a black thumb. I can kill silk plants. Pretty good.
That's pretty impressive.
Although I do have this one cactus that won't die, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy about that. Or if it's dead, it's still very green.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited. Ismail saying, I am amazed you focus on pencil and not on ink or digital as quote-unquote most artists are now. Lovecraft is one of my favorite writers, universe creators, and a good chunk of what got me into tattoos, my style, and what I got done on me ink-wise. When it comes to discussing engineering and stuff, I'll be lost. My degrees are in humanities, broadly speaking, but I'm getting TED Talk vibes.
So actually, I'll call it up here in a second, but I'll show you my pen and ink stuff. So what happened is this client, normally you'll see me do gouache painting and stuff, but this client actually specifically said they liked a picture they saw of mine, which was the Bernie Wrightson tribute piece. So they specifically said that they liked that and they wanted to see, so they were hoping to see something in that format. So I'm opening it up right now. Here we go.
Who doesn't like that piece?
No kidding. I mean, and to answer as valid, it's like, yes, Lee does work digital, but
I do everything. I do pencil, I do pen and ink.
You gotta go old school.
Sapporo's, yeah, man. They're gold marigolds. They're this awesome kind of like yellow goldenrod kind of color. But anyway, so this is the post them in Discord. But I can post pictures of mine as well. I just don't have them on me. But yeah, so this is the piece I did, and they said, yeah, we love this pen and ink thing you did. Can you do that? And before I do that, I have to do it in pencils. So yeah, so we do the pencils, and so that's why you see me, I'll pencil something that looks good in pencil, but then I'll erase it. And that's because I'm picturing what it would look like with ink over the lines I put down. And if it doesn't look good, I get rid of it. But yeah, back to the discussion about like commercializing something is, if I ever have the spare money for it, one of the things I want to do is actually set up a, God, I'm trying to think of it. What's it called? It's a type of trust where it's kind of, I think, I can't remember if it's UNICEF or the United Way, something like that. But basically they put a bunch of money in an investment and it spits out money, essentially. So kind of like an ETF fund. There's a specific word for it. It's not an entitlement. It's a which is what the word stuck in my head. But anyways, the idea is if I ever had the money, I would put aside enough money that you could actually hire somebody, but put in their contract that a portion of their contract of their money that you're paying them will go into a similar account for them. And so it builds their wealth and then pays them every month. And then once they hit a certain cap, they're switched off from that initial entitlement. And now they're feeding off their own. And a percentage of that goes into building the initial entitlement more. And so you can do things like take underprivileged people who don't know how to handle their money, don't know how to handle finances, and essentially use this system to teach them how to handle their money, how to build passive income, how to build revenue and whatnot, and then recurring revenue, so that you can actually then, fund and pass on to the next person. So everybody who kind of graduates from this program is contributing to the program, but once they graduate, it opens up a slot for somebody else, and then eventually it compounds on itself, so that 20, 30, only 50 years from now, if the system keeps going, you're taking a lot of people who are underprivileged and getting them off the streets, putting them through college, getting them into, really good paying jobs or whatnot, and they're making a crap ton of money off of knowing how to build it up so that it only takes them 20 years to retire, instead of having to, or even 10 years in some cases, instead of having to slave away and work paycheck to paycheck for their whole life, which like my mom does. So I would love to try and I want to sit down. I always tell Maria, it's like I'd be dangerous if I had that much money, because I would want to sit down. I have no need for billions of dollars. I have no need for millions of dollars kind of stuff. It's like the stuff I want to do is very cheap. I'm like the Joker, just less homicidal. And I like that idea though, that you could teach somebody and you could use that extra revenue to teach somebody how to live their lives. Because I was poor growing up and I don't ever want to be there again. And that kind of was what motivated me to work as hard as I do. And I would love to be able to educate other people to, so that they don't have the same problems, and yeah, if you can find a way to build a business and monetize that, and it's almost like, I guess the concept was paying for somebody's college tuition, but it's almost like an indentured servitude kind of thing where you pay for somebody's college tuition, but like a certain percentage of their pay for the rest of their life goes back into paying into the fund that paid for their education so that you can pay for somebody else's with that same fund, and it keeps growing exponentially. So trying to figure out a way to do that legally is something that sort of fascinates me. So again, if I ever have the money, I'm going to sit down with a lawyer and an accountant, possibly a group of lawyers, and just try to figure out, like, is that even possible legally? And, what are the implications of it? Because I would love to be able to do that. I think that it would work. So Lee just wants to watch the world earn. Hell yeah. Exactly. But that goes to my whole thing is Maria has this great philosophy where she says, you do, God, what is it? She was saying it's okay if you do the right thing, or if you do the wrong, was it the wrong thing for the right reasons, or the right thing for the wrong reasons? One of those. I think it's do the right thing for the wrong reasons. So it's like, save the world but be greedy, but your result is you save the world. So yeah, I think that's it. Do the right thing for the wrong reasons or with the wrong intent. I forgot her exact saying, but but I think that if you can go in with an open mind like that and try to approach things differently and try to figure out how you can make something work and also, self-fund itself. But Rurutu, I love that, by the way. Just want to watch the world earn.
Shadow Raven checks and says, hi, sorry I haven't been here in a while. Thank you for coming back, Shadow Raven. We missed you. Also, Lee, and Stephen, Adala but one of the new entries into the electric vehicle market is a familiar name. DeLorean has announced their new electric vehicle.
I know.
And their first, they plan on having like 9,000 vehicles. Should be, they're going to go into production next year, but they should have they're estimating to have about 9,000 vehicles out for by 2024. But they are going to have a limited edition first run of 88 vehicles for the first.
Nice.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah, it is.
I heard about the DeLorean. I didn't know about I didn't know about the 88 though. That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. But a DeLorean are going backwards in time is available. It is not. In fact, if you go look it up, DeLorean, the new DeLorean. Other than the gull-wing doors, it looks nothing like the Back to the Future car. It's pretty much like a DeLorean in name only. But the people who started this are actually we're involved with the DeLorean. I forget what the gentleman's name is, but he's the one who bought up all the old DeLorean stock. And when I say stock, like all the parts. The rights to the name.
Yeah.
And he was responsible for, if you owned a DeLorean, you probably got parts from there, because he had literally hundreds, he had thousands of cars, and then warehouses full of the doors because the gullwing doors broke down a lot, and the axles and all. So he owned all the parts. So he was making, I think he was actually like a mechanic. He was just like, owned a couple of, stores and locations, and he had some money, so he was able, him and some other investors. But from them, they like DeLorean electric. So they got even more investors, but they can still use the DeLorean name. So him and some other people have bought into this, and people who were engineers and executives of Tesla and some of the other car companies have got together, and this new version of the DeLorean company has put out this called the Alpha 5, and it looks, again, they only have 3 of them so far, and they're just like prototypes, but it looks amazing. And like a lot of electric vehicles, what people don't realize is that an electric vehicle is actually fast as hell. You need to actually figure out ways to slow it down, and that's the whole like braking system. So, but yeah, and he says it's everyone's very excited for it, and who better to do. So I'm excited. This could be a cool thing to have.
Who better to show us into the future than DeLorean?
Yeah, exactly.
I've been following their Twitter account, and so I see like all the photos of the cars, and yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, no, it really does. It really looks pretty amazing. And what it would be like, to own a Tesla would be cool, but to own a DeLorean, that would be pretty neat.
Now, what you have to do is you have to get one of the original DeLoreans and then just convert it to electric.
Yeah. No,
to come full circle on our conversation.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. A friend of mine, he has one. He drives it every now and again, but that's the biggest complaint. It's like, the door is just what is heavier than hell, and if the swing arm, the thing isn't, the piston isn't working right, it's like basically traffic your car.
I've actually gotten to drive around in one before. Pretty cool.
Yeah. You need a Mr. Fusion engine off the back. definitely. But I asked him, it's like, so how are you keeping this up? And he told me about, it's like, somebody actually bought up all of DeLorean stock and everything, so you can't actually buy replacement parts and everything. But he says, if it isn't anything major, he takes it over to his local mechanic, and Saab parts fit in a DeLorean. And I was like, oh, okay, I did not know that. I said, his engine and a lot of other things under the hood. It's like, there's like about 15 to 25% Saab inside of it, and it works just fine.
Nice.
Those goddamn doors though. It stays in his garage. Every now and again, he goes out there.
Trailer Queen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because it's fun. To be seen in it. He's got a lot. Yeah, how many time machines does Jay Leno have? Yeah, exactly. Jay Leno in that steam-powered car. Yeah, that thing was amazing.
Oh, watch him like fire that thing up.
Yeah.
Haha.
Room 2, it smells like room 2, one for every inch. Exactly. No, he's got a lot. He's filled up airplane hangars with his collection. So, Broscos, what channel is for pics?
Go and use general.
Is there a pics channel?
You can just use the general channel.
You can just throw it in general. Don't we say otherwise?
Hang on, I'm on the other side of the studio grabbing stuff.
And says at least one for every late night talk show host he stunted the development. Oh, I think he did the late show, the Tonight Show very well. So Bro says, for some reason I can't post pics in general. God, if anything, anybody should be able to post pics in general. I will take a look at it.
We'll create a photos channel. I think we did that because people were spamming the channel with all kinds of crap.
Oh, maybe.
So I think that was actually something we had to crack down on. So, okay. So all my pens I was pulling out were all brand new. So, and I know I've got used ones. So I went looking for the used ones. Sorry, I don't like cracking open new pens if I've got ones that don't need to be cracked open. Okay. I'm back. But hopefully my pseudo rant about like trying to figure out a way to commercialize things, I hope people understood that. Like I'm not saying like I actually tend to be very like green conscious, environmentally sound. But I just try to think of it from the standpoint of being less self-righteous and being more, if I can figure out a way to monetize it or save somebody money, then they'll switch too.
Right.
So that's kind of how I try to think about it, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does.
So, speaking of being green, self-conscious, and righteous, Steven, what do you think of single female lawyer She-Hulk?
Are we talking about the 2 episodes that have aired so far, or just the?
No, the 2 episodes that have aired so far.
I really like it. I have to say, I've not seen all of Orphan Black, but I have seen, conservatively speaking, in probably the first 2 seasons, if not the first 3 seasons of Orphan Black.
Right.
And I think that Tatiana Maslany is a very charming actor. And I think so far she's doing a great job in the role.
Right.
And I'm very curious about some of the things that have happened so far in the show.
Right.
And what that potentially means for the future, both for She-Hulk and for other closely related properties. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's fun.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think Aaron and I. I was gonna say I think Aaron and I kind of came up with, in one of our discussions is She-Hulk is how they're going to introduce the Thunderbolts kind of thing. So the idea that these bad guys doing good, it's like how do you get them? How do you get a bunch of these guys who are in prison to work for the government, a la Suicide Squad?
So with William Hurt passing, do you think that Abomination will be his replacement on the team instead of like Red Hulk?
Dean Hulk is still out there, and he was Citizen B for the Thunderbolts, I believe. So I think guaranteed will probably head up the Thunderbolts. I mean, we can still do an homage to William Hurt.
Well, no, I guess I mean because like William Hurt or Thunderbolt Ross turns into the Red Hulk in the comics.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So with him being gone, I'm just wondering if like that.
Oh yeah. No,
if like
Abomination will be the muscle.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Muscle / tank.
Yeah, he's gonna have to be. Yeah, to just kind of like build that role, and maybe they do figure out some way for Abomination rather than the big green guy, big red guy, just so because like all the Thunderbolts are villains, with that have been reskinned.
Yeah.
In the video game parlance and everything. So maybe we can have Abomination red. Again, like we were talking about before, there's no reason why gamma radiation
Yeah, it was cool. I really liked it. I'm curious about who else is going to show up in the series because there have been hints at people in the trailers.
Sure.
I don't want She-Hulk to be overshadowed by those things, but it is cool to see ways that you can bring in some of those other elements and have it play out in her world.
Because we've already introduced just forgot his name. Daredevil. His Matt Murdock.
Yeah, he's in the trailers. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say not even the trailer, but we saw him in Spider-Man. So
yes,
exactly. And then Wong is going to appear, and someone Frogman and Titania. There's going to be all these people, and I had that same concern too, Steve. That's the thing that you mentioned that because like we're not going to have a case where like in the Boba Fett TV series, there was an episode that barely had Boba Fett in it.
And unfortunately for that series, that was fine.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I don't think anybody complained about that particular episode. In fact, they celebrated it because they were mostly complaining about Boba Fett at that point.
Yeah, because it was actually a pretty good episode. But yeah,
Yes.
I like how you
Yeah, no, I really like that they were really quick with the origin. Hey, this is what happened. She got hurt. She got some of his blood in her system. It turned her into a Hulk.
And she doesn't have these problems that he did.
Yeah.
And she's better than him in a lot of ways. So that was fun.
Or different, as he would say.
Yeah, they're different. It's like, yeah, but different in a better way. And I think it just also shows how much Bruce Banner also is kind of a nerd, right? He was, he's a scientist, he's a professor. He probably didn't go to a lot of yoga class. Or, as a man, probably didn't take a lot of self-defense courses or any of these kind of things. So it seems like, Jen Walters is actually applying just by kind of like her regular life to being a superhero. It's just now she's got, the strength and the height to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually kind of, I think that is a really cool kind of like a nice, a different flavor to the Hulk. Because she is a Hulk, but she's a different kind of Hulk.
Yeah.
And I think that going forward, that we're probably going to see a lot less Hulk, and She-Hulk will be, take over that role.
I love the whole you don't get to pick the name, they pick the name.
I think also, the writing has just been a lot really on point, and Garoppolo, just his delivery, it's like, and,
Yeah. I also think there's Emil Blonsky he brought up a very valid point. I think.
Which one? He brought up actually a couple, but yeah, which one?
When he was talking about I thought I was the good guy in the situation. The government hired me to take out this threat.
Yes.
So I like how they did that, because obviously, as the audience, we view Bruce and the Hulk as the protagonist of his movies, but from a different perspective.
Yeah, through the lens that the filmmakers gave us. Yeah.
Yeah. He was saying, it's like, I thought I was going to be the captain of fucking America.
Oops.
And it's like, until he said those words, like, yeah, I can kind of see that. You were given a version of the super soldier serum to go take down this huge threat that you were told that you needed to be taken down. That's exactly what, Steve Rogers was told.
Right.
Although,
that's exactly the mission that Steve was told.
Although he did pump himself full of more of the stuff later. So.
Well,
Technically,
Alpha males being alpha males. Yeah.
I was gonna say technically still following the orders of stop the Hulk. It's like, well,
Right.
By any means necessary. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go pump myself full of more stuff.
Okay, yeah. And then, honestly, it's like, yes, he did destroy Harlem, but they were going to gentrify it anyway. Just kind of
Horrible.
So what have you thought about the show so far?
Are you asking Fuji or Lee?
I'm asking you.
I really enjoyed it. I was a big fan of the She-Hulk comic book with John Byrne was doing it. I had a monthly subscription to it. I was reading it a lot. I actually remember, and I'm kind of hoping that somehow, some way, and also I think there's 8 episodes of this of She-Hulk.
I think there's 9.
9 episodes. That's fantastic. I'm kind of hoping that at the end of this, she follows Bruce into space in her convertible flying Cadillac, like she did in a good long run of She-Hulk that she had.
I don't know if we're gonna see that.
No, come on.
No, I don't know. I am curious what Bruce is doing.
Yeah, I can only suspect that somehow, some way, it leads into the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Yeah, I was thinking he's setting up for another show, another movie.
Thought of that.
Yeah, so it's got to be something. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have this tether now back into space, since.
Right.
I mean, I guess we always will with Captain Marvel, but she's, now Captain Marvel's back on Earth if you've been following Miss Marvel. So.
Right. Yeah,
Nick Fury's still in space,
Nick Fury is
Fury's
still in space.
Yeah.
looking for his shoes.
Yeah. Where are my goddamn shoes? Ismalius was saying earlier, it's like, would it be such a crazy idea to write the event's name in Art Deco letterhead on the tentacles?
That's not my job.
And also, there is the event already is going to have like a big banner across some of the negative space.
Yeah, they already have a logo and everything designed, and they gave me an idea of what they wanted. So they were talking like they wanted some Art Nouveau aspects. They were talking 1920s, so that's why all the girls are wearing kind of flapper dresses. The guys are wearing suits. There's a cat just chilling there, no reason, because it is a Lovecraft thing. So there's gonna be an evil cat just looking there.
No,
Yeah.
There's always that cat who's seen like way too much.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is my cue to go.
So, so they gave me a list of requirements, and then I had to design around that. So, they're doing all the design work for the logos and the masthead stuff. I'm just doing the illustration for it.
Yeah. And then Ismalius follows up. This is, or at least an overarching metropolitan Paris 20s metro style, more brazen, more Bioshock-ish, way less subtle.
I think they're gonna go with something like their one consistent note to me on everything has been Great Gatsby. So I would expect to see something kind of Art Deco, Art Nouveau-ish in its design potentially, possibly with a horror twist. So
all of that mentalist, paranormal society stuff. I think that there's nice atmospheric for it as well.
Yeah, plus the guy I'm doing this for, the art director, he is an amazing designer, so I trust anything he's going to do. He was actually one of the founders of MP3.
Oh, really?
If you remember mp3.com back in the day.
Yeah, its legacy lives on.
Yep.
It wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
Yeah, he sold his shares in the company, evidently, thankfully at the right time, and used that money to basically start a T-shirt company. And then he bought the rights to the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival, and they've been running it ever since. I don't know if he bought the rights or if he just started the damn thing. But yeah, he's just a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft. He was one of the main designers from mp3.com way back in the day, but he actually started a business in New Orleans, and then after Hurricane Katrina wiped it out, he moved to Portland, and he's been there ever since.
Good. Yeah. No, that's probably.
So he's all like, I'm not going to sit here and drown. I'm going to go to Oregon and hang out and make T-shirts.
So back to She-Hulk. I've really enjoyed it. I think that there's a lot of messaging on a lot of different levels. I mean, I'm glad. I'm really happy how they're treating the fourth wall. It was right up front. I think it's done. I think it's been done in a very clever way, in that it's very organically, moves the story along and provides that exposition to kind of like move the storyline along, because it is only 30 minutes.
Right. I do like that they're not doing the Deadpool thing where she talks to the audience and then everybody else looks around going, who are you talking to?
Right, yeah. So far, the only time that's ever happened is like when, in the first episode, the Hulk sees her talking to somebody and he kind of like looks at her looking at something. You know, so that's kind of like that's been a thing. But it's different from Deadpool.
I liked in the second episode when she's breaking the fourth wall and like when she's hired at the new firm.
Yes.
And she's getting the tour of the place and the guy's talking.
That's exactly what I was referring to.
Us the entire time, so she doesn't hear what he's saying, and then he asks her a question at the end, and she's like,
so what do you think?
I'm agnostic about this.
And he goes, really? Huh. That's unprecedented. Okay.
And she's like, I'm gonna think about that answer for the next year.
Yeah, exactly, because it's like, he seemed to think it was a pretty important question.
Yeah.
By the way, that law firm GLK&H. We met Mr. Holloway. That's the older gentleman.
Yes.
Who I love his character too, because that man is unfazed by any of this. He's just an older white guy who's seen too much or whatever. He's like, yeah, no, I'm here to hire on a 6'7" green lawyer. Can you do the job or not? But that law firm GLK&H stands for Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway, which are named after the very real people of Stanley for the Lieber, Kurtzberg is Jack Kirby. Holloway, not sure. Holden Holloway was also one of the founders. And I can't remember. Oh, the Goodman is like.
Oh, Marty Goodman.
Marty Goodman, thank you.
He's the founder of Timely Comics.
Yes, exactly.
That law firm is very prominent in Chris Claremont's run on X-Men.
There's a great documentary kind of thing. It's not. I can't really say. I guess it's a documentary. It seems more like an interview with Chris Claremont on Amazon Prime. It's a great thing where they talk about it. The funny thing is I remember watching it and while I was working, and I kind of just looked up in time to see a cosplayer dressed as Kitty Pryde, and I was like, Jesse? And yeah, it actually turned out to be a friend I know, Jesse Pridemore. But
oh, cool.
But she's a cosplayer, costume fabricator or whatever. But yeah, she does a really great Kitty Pryde. But yeah,
it looks like it's called Chris Claremont's X-Men.
Yeah.
From 2018.
It's like I said, it's listed as a documentary, but after watching it, it really was. I don't know. I mean, it seems more like a series of interviews with Chris and Louise Simonson and their editors and stuff, and Jim Shooter and whatnot. So it's it's pretty much I guess when I think documentary, I think I want something with Sir David Attenborough talking to me and whispering sweetly into my ear. With that amazing voice, but in this case, it was just Chris talking, and I still have my horrific moment with Chris Claremont that I still have to fix at some point, and that was first time I ever met him was in Chicago, and I was with Joel Adams and Buzz, and so we were sitting there. They both know Chris really well. He came up, sat down with us, started talking. They introduced me, and I mentioned that, X-Men 275 was my very first comic book that I ever bought with my own money, to which he looks me deadpan in the face and says, I'm really sorry about that. And I said, oh, don't worry, it's not a problem. I bought it for the art. And in my desire to be honest, I didn't realize what I had said to the writer of that book. And I didn't get a chance because Joel was just like, okay, we got to go. And immediately grabs me by the arm and says, say bye to Chris, we're going to take off. I didn't get to actually tell him that I am actively trying to collect, X-Men 1 through 300. But in particular, I want X-Men 94 through 280 because that was his run on the X-Men. So, and if I can get a giant size X-Men in there somewhere, that would be awesome too. But yeah, I'm actually, like we were talking about collections earlier, Steve. That's one of the things I'm doing is I'm actually purging some of my collectibles, some of my personal collection, so that I can focus my collection on just a few specific things.
Gotcha.
One of them would be a full run of the X-Men 1 through 300.
Wow.
Lee, how about you? What have you thought about the She-Hulk so far?
I think it's absolutely delightful. It's funny as hell. It's been a while since I've watched a TV show that made me laugh out loud, especially kind of in the way this one does. So I will admit the hardest I laughed was just because it was so unexpected. Was the after credit scene from the first episode. That had my wife and I, like almost in tears laughing because it pretty much is. It's they basically made an after credit scene or post credit scene out of a Reddit thread.
Right. No. But I think that also, I think it's very clever writing in that, like, here, She-Hulk, Jen Walters, breaks the fourth wall and talks to the viewer, talks to the audience. And so, also, I think that she is our champion in asking those tough questions that we've all been wondering about.
Tough questions.
You know, of the Marvel, of the Marvel universe, like how, like, that, you know, all the questions that Kevin Feige won't answer for us. Although I'm told that he was the one who actually came up with that date.
But yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's very well done. The actress is amazing.
Yes.
She's charming, witty. You know, plays the character perfect. And nothing like her Orphan Black character.
No.
Well, characters.
I was gonna say which one.
Yeah. But and it's been a while since I've seen Orphan Black, so.
Yeah.
And I only watched the first few
Available
episodes.
on Amazon Prime. I think it still should be.
Well,
Yeah,
I the only reason I watched it originally, like, I have no interest in watching Orphan Black because it's kind of the same reason I haven't seen Breaking Bad. I really, really, really want to watch Breaking Bad, but I want to watch Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I have too much stuff on my schedule to sit down and watch a show. So, especially one that's been on for like 10 years, 8 years, or whatever. You know, and has, you know, hundreds of episodes. So, hence why I couldn't watch Breaking Bad at the time that it was coming out because I was too busy and everybody was ruining it for me. So I decided I'd wait till after it was over, and then I just got even busier. So.
And here we are. Right?
Yep.
Yeah,
And so I still haven't seen it, but you know what? I will watch it at some point. You know, it's on my list. You know, in fact, I'll probably start binge watching it next time I get Netflix, right after I watch The Sandman. But yeah, or you know, whatever project that we can't talk about that Steven's currently working on. So, but yeah, it's well, actually, are you allowed to say anything about those projects? You want to like pimp the name?
Yeah, they've both been announced. They were announced last year during Netflix's Geek Week. So one of them is Twilight of the Gods, which will be an animated series on Netflix. Date to be determined.
That's my favorite release date.
Yeah. The other one is, I don't know if there's like an official name for it, because I've only come onto the project recently, but it's an animated series tied to Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, the Vegas movie that he did for Netflix.
Yep.
Nice. Yes, I thought I remember there was going to be a third movie, whatever it was.
I have no information on that. That's not me trying to be coy. I don't know if there are any plans or not.
I'm saying that I thought I remember reading, like, there was going to be the Army of the Dead, Army of Thieves, and then there was something else. Because
Army of the Dead, Army of the Really Dead, Army of the Mostly Dead all day.
Great. No, but yeah, there was supposed to be. I thought there were supposed to be three projects, three zombie projects that Snyder was supposed to do. So yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed them. You know, I thought, you know, Army of the Dead was cool. That was definitely kind of like brings an interesting twist to, you know, the Zack Snyder zombieverse. And then Army of Thieves was just kind of fun. I don't know, it's just like a cool like fight scene and everything, and that Han's character.
You can sit here if you want,
Just so
but you gotta hold this.
A clever fellow. but Stephen, what do you want to see coming up in She-Hulk?
Sorry, I'm laughing too hard because Maria just came in here.
Oh, good.
And I offered her one of my seats. Problem is, it's at my height.
Right. No, she needs a step ladder.
Yeah, she did. Because the seats, they're also stools, so they're on wheels. And things just wheeling out from under her butt. She's just looking at me. Hi, honey. How are you? Go ahead and sit properly. There you go. And then here's that.
So yeah, in terms of what I'm hoping to see with She-Hulk, I really have no expectations in terms of what I'm hoping to see. I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. But yeah, I don't want to put my expectations on the show.
Smart man.
I'm enjoying like being a passenger on this ride and seeing where they're gonna take us.
Right.
I mean, I am looking in terms of the things that they have hinted at. I'm of course interested and excited to see Daredevil. I assume that we will also see Matt Murdock, but
Right.
you know, I don't want to put too much emphasis on that because they haven't shown us that we're going to see Matt. They did show us we are going to see Daredevil. So,
Yeah. Yeah. With his black costume, it looks like.
With his what?
Black costume. Daredevil has it's a different
Yeah.
Daredevil suit that he had from the previous Netflix.
There was also an image that I saw from one of their digital advertisements of him in a yellow costume.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm interested in that. I really love, not to go too far off the rails here, but I really love Daredevil Yellow by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a really good reimagination of the original. Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing the yellow costume, I always get like a little nostalgic for.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. But yeah, I mean, if the show maintains what it's given me so far, I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah.
I really don't want to say like, oh, I want to see this, and this, and then be disappointed when that doesn't happen because the show doesn't owe us anything. Other than what it's showed us, it's going to tell us. So those things I'm excited for, but I don't want to project my own dreams and aspirations onto the show. I think that's when you do that, you set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, no, I myself, I'm excited just to see all the little, threads that they put out there, how they all tie it all together. So I am excited to see, Daredevil and Wong and Frogman.
Right.
And, we've had this, this is like the second time, I guess, that we've had one of the TV shows borrow heavily from the movies where, they advertise, or not the advertise, but there's the thing about, oh yeah, no, Abomination was seen in a secret fight club, with scenes from Shang-Chi.
Right.
And obviously, like WandaVision kind of like, picks up from, the death of Vision and, some other, we've done similar things. But I thought it's like, oh, okay, so we aren't really just dovetailing right into, how, the MCU works. So this is good.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I am too. I would really like, if Jen Walters is the champion of the band, I really would like her to ask the big question of like, so what are we doing with the, huge man in the Indian Ocean?
Well, actually, that was actually in one of the episodes.
Is it really?
Yeah, there's when she was looking for the job. There's an ad on the side. There's two headlines in the where the usually like the other stories you might be interested in section.
Oh, right. Okay.
There's one that basically says giant stone man in Indian Ocean or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then the other one says man with metal claws in bar fight.
Oh, I did not notice that. Those are good Easter eggs. Because yes, I just read the one where it's like looking to start over as a mascot for Swiss Village. It's like, oh. Yeah, I've been there.
We're talking about She-Hulk.
Rock
currently.
bottom.
Maria, She-Hulk, have you been watching?
I have been.
Oh, Mandala's saying, what show are you guys talking about? She-Hulk, yes. Mandala, have you watched it?
Probably not.
Or are you too busy watching Titans and Panzer?
Probably not. So, Maria, what did you think?
Well, once again, props for the strong female character.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm not just talking about physical strength.
Right. There was no fighting in this
No.
in the second episode.
No, and
Well-
props for a female with a personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Props
We-
for that.
We did see Wong fighting Abomination.
Technically, that is true. Yes.
It was rigged. That's not a fight. That was that was a dive. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I did like that whole bit. It's like, you want to know how that feels? And then Wong does the whole punch himself. Well, why are you punching yourself? Why are you punching yourself?
Right. Which is, I mean, okay. So now I'm talking to Steven here. Steven, the rest of you can just, Steven, did that take a little, like, did you take away? Does that sting a little bit with you bringing up, since you're going to be using the spot?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's completely different.
Okay.
Like, yeah. And I don't think. I mean, that was done once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll. I think it'll be fine. It's
Okay. All right. I just
it's
wanted.
gonna look and feel a lot
Because
different.
I saw that, I gotta say, dude, thought of you when I saw
Uh-huh.
that. When I first, it's like
What was the part that made you think of Steve?
the whole, but the when Wong is fighting Abomination.
He uses the portal to punch himself out.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's the thing
Yep.
that the Spot did or does in the comic. Yeah.
Pretty much all he does.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Spider-Man just brute forces his way through it.
Go ahead.
And then the fact is like they established she's a smart character.
She is.
We established that she's actually physically strong now. On top of that,
Yeah, exactly.
and how about the fact she got hired to be eye candy for the shop?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think of that perspective. It's like, yeah, it's like the woman got hired to basically be you're our legal booth babe.
A little bit, So
Kind
how
of
do
a
you
mascot.
feel about that scene? Because like, I totally see her, it's like, oh, I'm told, because she has that, whole monologue, thing where she's talking to us, breaking the fourth wall and everything. But then also her, best friend Nikki and paralegal says, yeah, but you got a corner office. We got a fridge, a mini fridge full of water. It's
And a map
like,
to the best bathroom to poop in.
Yeah, and you know what the best bathroom to poop in? I think that was very. I don't know why, but I said, yeah, no, that's an important thing.
Now, and speaking from personal experience,
If
if when you're a young, halfway, good-looking girl,
Yeah.
you're going to end up as eye candy eventually.
Sure.
Either two.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
now the thing is what are you going to do with that? I don't want to say power, but with that ability, during that time of your life, are you going to go hog wild and just make a whole bunch of bad choices, or are you going to take advantage and try to do this, try to siphon this into some kind of career,
Yeah.
funnel it into some kind of career?
Or just have fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Which did you do?
I was your damn booth babe, and I see your career's doing pretty well.
Yeah, my career is doing pretty well.
So when your drawing sucked and you had no money, I was the one doing the drawing into the customers.
Absolutely. Up until the point where I could do it on my own.
Yes.
I totally rode her coattails.
And I've had this conversation with a lot of like young female artists. It's like you're good looking, and they look at me and like wrinkle their nose. I'm like, dude, you're only good looking, for a very It's going to sound really horrible, but you're only going to be the ideal eye candy for a very short period of your life.
I like the conversation. I forgot who it was, but you told the girl.
Hey, I'm
Sorry.
I'm telling this, and you better
Okay,
stop
well,
cutting me off, or else I'm going to
no,
rip
no.
out your tongue.
I'm down.
Okay, so you tell these girls that you're going to be eye candy for a very short time, if you do it right, because as soon as you hit a certain age, guys are not going to come around you anymore, because either the guys are younger or the guys that were dropping money on you have gotten married and moved on. So
Well, there'll be somebody else. There'll be somebody new.
Yeah. So you have so what you do with this finite amount of time is once again you get that money in. You play the play like the little pretty trinket and by day, and now you're studying your ass off so that you can stop doing this.
Yeah, because like she did say that she does have 6 figures of school debt.
Yeah.
That's here's an opportunity to. And so there was that scene. I was hoping that she would do, but like Tom Cruise already did it. But like when she's negotiating for this job, she says, "I have one thing that's non-negotiable," and she goes, "I get to hire my own paralegal." and Holloway is like, "I really don't care." But I was hoping that she was going with it's like, and part of this deal is that you pay off my student loans. And I was hoping that's what she was going, but I'm glad that she also could get Nikki a job.
Well, it's not so much getting Nikki a job, is she wants to have an ally on her side and somebody who will watch her back in a brand new environment.
Somebody she trusts.
Somebody who's not going to stick a knife in it.
Right.
They're lawyers.
And I like Nikki. Nikki
Yeah.
seems like she seems to be the really good best friend.
She's also very practical.
And I can only hope that she's not a Skrull.
Well, we've already shown that not all scrolls are bad.
No, not all Skrulls are bad. But I was listening to another podcast. They're talking about it's like, what if Holloway is a Skrull? Because he just seems like so kind of a little disconnected emotionally that he could be a great Skrull.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think by this point, all the Skrulls have kind of kept up on Earth pop culture at this point.
Yeah, I think they've been around since the '80s, obviously. So they're pretty well integrated.
Yep.
I can only imagine. Actually, just another aside here, but like with the whole like secret invasion thing, I can only imagine that like that kid that we saw actually in Captain Marvel, who grew up on pinball machines and Happy Days lunchboxes and everything. That kid is pretty much like lived on Earth his entire time. I can't imagine that maybe he might not be that excited to go back to wherever they're going back to.
Yeah, because he let's be honest, he's a second generation immigrant.
Yeah, he is. That's it exactly, Maria. My point exactly. It's like, I don't want to go to the old country. I don't want to go off into space and start a new colony. It's like, I have friends here. He's making friends with the. Maybe she, with the other girl who eventually becomes, Spectrum or whatever. It's like he's got people.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, Maria. He is that kid, and a lot of those kids are second generation immigrants. And then we roll right into Men in Black. Now it's like, okay, you can stay here, but now we have to. Oh my God, that's what Samuel L. Jackson is doing. he's just basically starting the SHIELD division of MIB.
In space.
That's horrible.
Oh, that's awesome. But I'm wondering if this is speech to text gone wrong, or is this a new term I've never heard before? Quote, 1650, a boutique creative advertising and branding agency is looking for a NAR senior designer. It's like
NAR.
But I have heard of these people. I know who 1650 is.
Do you know what a NAR senior designer is?
I do not.
Maybe they wrote this ad on Speak Like a Pirate Day.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd be looking for an R senior designer.
It's NAR with a G, like gnarly. Maybe that's what they were going for, gnarly. No, I'm not a NAR person.
Well, you gotta finish that up with brah. I'm a NAR person, brah.
That's right.
Yeah, like our printer when he would come by the office on a skateboard.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. Yeah, one of the guys I worked with, the guy who actually would do all the scanning for my artwork, the large pieces, He actually, when I was downtown San Diego, he would actually, we'd be upstairs in the studio watching, like overlooking the city streets, and we'd watch him just go rocketing by,
The wrong way.
50 years old on a skateboard.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. I don't know. Some of these job descriptions are kind of weird sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny. It's always like for somebody like me, because I had to develop so many different skill sets as a freelancer. How do I explain it? It sucks because I used to code, and because I used to code, a lot of people wanted me to design because they didn't want to buy a designer and a coder. But I hated coding, so everybody wants that unicorn, that person who can code, design, do back end development, everything. And it's like, no, you find somebody who's really good at one thing, and then you hire somebody else who's really good at the other thing you need them to do, and just go that way. So I specialized in XY when I was UX development when I was at XY. But kind of morphed over. But yeah, that was actually why, is I hated, I didn't want to be a NAR person.
Well, Mandala, there is a company called NAR that it's a bunch of software developers based in Boston. Maybe they want a designer but they're software developer. They don't have any specific software. I don't know.
Software. Where? Over there.
It's like a who's on first thing.
Yep.
I just remember when I was in high school working in a warehouse, literally working on a loading dock. One of our competitors put an ad out in the paper that says "long hours, low pay. Please, call this number to apply."
Long hours, low pay.
Low pay, yeah. And you know what? They were getting people.
At least they were honest.
Yeah, no, they were. And it's the kind of job that, like, by your third day, you're already put in 40 hours. So the rest of it's like all time and a half. So it kind of made up for the low pay, the long hours.
This guy probably would put something like, long pay, low hours, physically, demanding, save money on gym memberships.
Yeah, physically demanding, mentally taxing. Yes.
The upselling part is that you're not spending money on a gym membership, though.
That's right. I'm an overpaid lazy ass of a programmer.
You know what's funny?
Knowing is half the hassle.
You know what's funny? It's like I went from working retail for a very long time to working in manufacturing.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with these tough, blue collar types now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, they think they're tough, and I'm thinking, dude, I had to deal with teenage girls in high school and early college.
Right.
And flamboyant gay men.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
you guys are kitty cats,
Yeah, exactly. You don't know.
And your husband was in the Marines, so you're also surrounded by those guys.
Yeah.
I've literally done this job, but in high heels and dealing with people less qualified than you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I like
we
that
have to color code things. Everything you have here is chrome.
That's her job now, color coding everything.
Right.
Yeah, but it's just kind of funny because it's like dude, it's like yeah, you want to see bitchy?
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
Exactly.
Which I find amusing.
Also coming out this week, we have The Rings of Power comes out on September 1.
Yeah. Some I know Muriel Moonlit's probably excited by that one.
Yeah.
I know she was lurking in here earlier. Hopefully she's still about.
I am cautiously optimistic. I hope it has, some nice flavor to it. again, cautiously optimistic because this isn't Peter Jackson. This is somebody else entirely, and their take on um, Lord of the Rings. So I don't expect it to dovetail, in the look and or feel necessarily of, all of the, other Lord of the Rings stuff.
I haven't had time to research it yet to see if Weta's involved, but I do know.
I know that they are.
Okay, I was gonna say it looks like they are just from the quality and the production standards and stuff they have, but I do know that the contract with the Tolkien estate essentially mandates that it not be tied directly to the Peter Jackson movies.
Okay, all right.
However,
I think that's actually a good safety valve.
Yeah. However, you've got some of the same. If what is working on it, it'll still look like it, but also it takes place at a time when those characters really aren't related. So.
Yeah, no, it's like 2,000 years before the Hobbit.
So you'll see Isildur's maybe Isildur, but and his dad and stuff, but you won't see. It may end with the Battle of the Rings or something, but
right, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I don't think I'm. It looks like they're trying to do their best to fulfill that requirement of not being tied to the Peter Jackson movies, but also trying to make sure that they cover a time that wasn't really covered, so that it feels like it's part of the same story.
Could they just be sticking to the notes a little bit closer?
The Riverdale version of Rivendell.
I'm sorry, what?
I call it the Riverdale version of Rivendell.
There you go.
No, could they just be sticking closer to the books and have less creative control than the original movies did?
Well, see, the funny thing is like the original movies, as much as people blasted them and whatnot, a good chunk of that, like The Hobbit, a lot of that was actually Tolkien's second draft of The Hobbit that never came out.
Oh.
And so he'd actually, he wrote The Hobbit, and then took a couple of decades or whatever it was to write the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But after he wrote the Lord of the Rings trilogy, he went back and rewrote The Hobbit so that it tied in better with the Lord of the Rings. Because originally the ring was just kind of a MacGuffin for The Hobbit. Mm-hmm. That it wasn't the main MacGuffin. It was just a tool that Bilbo was able to use.
It was the glowing suitcase.
Yeah, it's the glowing. Well, that's a MacGuffin. But it wasn't the glowing suitcase. The glowing suitcase was what everybody was after. Nobody was after the ring in The Hobbit. Bilbo just had the damn thing. So it wasn't the main MacGuffin. It was just a sideline kind of prop.
So it's kind of like the 70s cartoon that I remember then.
Yeah. And that was very much tied. That was very much, almost verbatim from the book as best they could. But with when he went back and rewrote it, he wrote it to be much more mature, much more dark. And he rewrote it so that it meshed in better with the Lord of the Rings books. But he also did the Silmarillion, where he did a lot of the backstory to everything. And that's really kind of what The Hobbit was based off of. So that's why everybody bitched that it was this short book that was made into 3 movies. And it's all like, well, yes, but it was also, they went back and actually used all this other stuff that he wrote that never got released because the publisher refused to release it. Because the publisher was all like, what'd you do to the children's book? People are dying. A lot of them. Yeah, so...
and Muriel is here. She goes, looks up from eating Arby's and says, well, a lot of the YouTubers I stalk, OneRing.net, what is there? I'm leery, but I understand there's going to be changes, but I'm hearing good things are the premieres have been rolling out.
Cool.
And Dahl says, how do they enforce, quote unquote, not directly tied in?
Don't have Aragorn.
Exactly. That's where, the executive producers don't count. I'm not quite sure either.
Yeah, I think that's a little confusing, a little gray area, but I think it's pretty much don't have Don't have Aragorn, don't have Gimli.
Morniel and anybody else who gives a damn, do you think that Tom Bombadil is going to show up in Ring of Power? Since he was sorely spurned
Well,
the hobbits.
again, I think. It kind of goes back to almost like with the Lord of the Rings, is if it didn't pertain to Frodo, if it didn't pertain to the story they were trying to tell, they didn't tell it. So Tom Bombadil, while a fun, whimsical, bit of the story, it didn't actually carry the story forward any. It was just an encounter with a fun creature that Tolkien wanted to have in the books. Whereas in the movies, it would slow down the pace of a movie. So.
Yeah. And Morniel said as much as well. Says, yeah, this would be easier to say the type, but things were tweaked. The trolls that turned to stone were like from Angmar and moving south. The orcs that attacked were going to also attack human towns, but got mistracked from that by dwarves, book-wise. The movies took bits from the appendix and such. Because there was a major issue with the orc Gundabad and the parts with Gandalf, seeing Saruman and such was happening, but you didn't find out until Return of the King.
Yep.
Yeah, no, a lot of stuff you just can't do word for word. You got to kind of like shorthand it because it's already a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah, I wish they would have handled the necromancer better.
Yeah, because basically Gandalf, while it's like the dwarves are like, oh, you're not leaving us to go off on your own little thing. It's like, hey, buddy, my own little thing is basically saving the world from like a Sith Lord here. So just, you guys just keep walking. I'll get back to you.
And then when he abandons Frodo to go talk to Saruman.
Right.
It's exactly. Like, this is just Gandalf. He does that to everybody.
Madala goes, are they going to ask, so where did all the black elves go? And then the uncomfortable elven silence. And Bruce says, I want to see the 2 blue wizards. I hope that they have the 2 blue wizards. That would be great.
That would be cool.
That would be cool if we actually get to see the 2 blue wizards.
Although what's funny is at least they were mentioned in The Hobbit.
Yeah. Well, then there's Magnus and Tublino. He goes, I haven't quite forgotten their names. It's like a little nonsense because they were never named. There's an opportunity. We might name them. We'll see. Yeah, exactly. Morniel goes, Tom Bombadil can show up. We have no clue who and what he is, but there's no mention of Hobbit or even these proto-Hobbits too. So the Hairfoots are one of the big things to watch. Madala says, oh, the whites. Yes. Yeah, no, so I'm excited just for just to see how it all goes.
Me too. So we'll definitely be tuning in. So with Game of Thrones, though,
Right.
So what do you think so far with House of the Dragon, Stephen?
Hot D.
So far, really, I've only seen the first episode. We haven't seen this past Sundays yet.
Okay.
As someone who was really disappointed by the end of Game of Thrones and really had no enthusiasm for seeing this series, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. It made me feel like the old juice was back.
Yeah. I'm hoping. It's also, I think the thing I like is that the George R.R. Martin had more of a place in working on this one. So he had more of a hand in this one than he did Game of Thrones. Because also with Game of Thrones, it didn't go off the rails until they ran out of books.
Until they got loose.
Yeah,
right.
and they had to wing it. And rather than the part that kills me is like it was very well known, at least in the production side of things. So I worked, full disclosure, I did merchandising and some licensing work for Game of Thrones season 3 and 4. So I was actually working on it and doing projects with them. So periodically, just you're dealing with people who are all working on the show. Sometimes, you learn stuff. But one of the things that I learned was it was pretty much well known among some of the people working on it that George R. R. Martin, even though he hadn't finished the books, he had finished the story. Like he had the notes of how it was going to end, all the major points he was trying to get to, and the things he needed to tie up and whatnot, and how they were going to be tied up. And he gave those notes to D&D.
Benioff and Weiss.
Yes. So, and he gave the notes to D&D and those guys, and they essentially wiped their ass with them. So they kind of just didn't, they didn't follow along. Also, because from what HBO was saying, even in interviews and stuff, HBO had let it be known that they were willing to buy 15 seasons in advance of Game of Thrones. Like, they're like, we could do 15 seasons with the stories that George has panned out. And they wanted that. And the writers were like, no, we're going to give you 6. And so, that was why you ended up with the truncated 7th and 8th season, that was the compromise. It's like, we'll give us 2 more seasons, but here's, and we'll give you shorter episodes to work on or whatever. And so that was kind of how they did that as far as trying to get that story out. Well, the good news is the writer who's on it now with George seems to genuinely want to make sure the story's finished.
Yeah.
And HBO has committed to saying that, we'll fund it, finish this story. So I'm hoping that you don't end up with, again, because George is part of the writing team on this. So you're definitely not going to have somebody who's just all like, I want to go work on something else, bye-bye, and wipe their hands of it and go away. So yeah, I'm super, super excited that he's involved in it. Again, like Steve says, it kind of has you, or at least me, reminiscing, or hopeful of the days of old, Game of Thrones, when it was awesome and exciting. So
it was promising.
Yeah, and yeah, you have all that intrigue and stuff that everybody wanted to see. And I'm a little bummed that it doesn't look like we're going to get to see any of the White Walker kind of stuff, shenanigans. But also I think that should almost be a series by itself. Do a Game of Thrones The Wall, Castle Black.
Do we know that we're not going to see any of that?
Not
Have they
yet.
Explicitly stated that we're not going to. 'Cause
Well, we know.
I can see a scenario where we do a cutaway to the wall. The wall's there, right?
Yep.
At this time.
They've mentioned it twice.
Okay, I couldn't remember if they mentioned it in the first episode or not.
Yeah. Well, he mentioned, "Am I supposed to send my brother away to the wall?"
Okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so they've mentioned it, but it's, I think, trying to figure out, like I'm trying to think, like in this time frame, because I'm not as versed on the books as I should be, or as I'd like to be, just because, again, as much as I love the books and I love reading them, I have other stuff to do than study them, like some of my friends do.
The wall is like 8,000 years old. So
Yeah, the wall is very old.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I'm trying to figure out. Like I don't think there's anything going on with the White Walkers at this point because winter hasn't come, so they haven't come down further south. You might have something dealing with the wildlings potentially, but I can't think anything that would make you actually have to deal with the White Walkers yet because they weren't even known in Game of Thrones until the very first episode when they caused that one guy to abandon his post.
Right.
So, and that was really kind of, and that's why it sucked that they were just kind of shuffled off. The long night was supposed to be years long, and it turned out to be a night in Game of
That
Thrones.
doesn't beat the wall.
What's up?
That does move things along.
Yeah, but that was the problem. It moved things along too fast because, again, the whole MacGuffin, the whole thing that set the Game of Thrones, the original series in motion, was the encounter with the White Walkers, and the guy, the Watchman abandoning his post,
Yes.
being found by Ned, having to chop his head off, and that kind of sets up the moral story, and it goes through, and also, by the way, it sets up the whole thing that the guy who gives the order to execute somebody should actually commit it, whereas Joffrey orders everybody else to cut everybody else's heads off for him. So it kind of shows you, if flat out Ned's like, a good leader would do this, and then Joffrey does the opposite, not a good leader. So you have a lot of cool story development and foreshadowing and things that really went into those early episodes, but they all tied into that very first encounter with the White Walkers. And then rather than, actually, and it took 5 seasons for us to actually get to the White Walkers, to actually get to the wall and start causing a lot of trouble. What is it? Hardhome, the battle. I forgot the name of it. I think it was
I think.
Hardhome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but that battle scene was really kind of your first big White Walker encounter kind of thing, and where you discover the whole secret of Valyrian steel and all that. So again, there was fantastic story development to lead to all that, and then it just gets shit on because the writers wanted to go work on Star Wars, which they didn't get to do that either. And then
they kind of shot themselves in the foot on that.
Yeah, that was also just unfortunate that we didn't get good on either end. It's the whole bird in hand versus two at the bush, and you lost both.
And I really think it also comes, and it's because they were willing to abandon a project to go chase another project. Yeah. I don't think anybody trusts them to work on a major project anymore.
Yeah, their cachet has certainly.
Yeah, and but yeah, it was. I think that had they followed the notes and stuff, because also remember, even as you're watching House of the Dragon, they mentioned that dagger, the Valyrian steel dagger that they use, that Arya Stark uses to kill the Night King.
Yeah.
Right.
That
was the one that they that kind of thief or whatever they tried to kill Bran with.
Bran Stark.
After he survived the fall.
Yep. So that dagger that she eventually ends up with was actually the dagger that was passed down by each of the kings, the Targaryen kings, and all going back to Aegon, the Conqueror. Is it Aegon? Their names are so similar, it's hard. But the conquering king, the one who took over all the 7 kingdoms with his dragons, or at least 6 of the kingdoms, he's the one who said that, it's like, well, I have this dream of fire and ice, and one of the Targaryens is going to kill, this threat. And so we have to preserve the family line, essentially. Not knowing it, realized that Jon Stark is basically, or Jon Snow, is actually, a Targaryen. And it made thematically and story-wise and whatnot for him, not Arya, to have actually killed the Night King. But you can kind of see where they're almost kind of retconning or trying to fix that in some way with House of the Dragon. So I or at least they're sticking to George's notes, and then I guess we'll have to figure out something, kind of pretend it happened differently in season 8.
Y'all was saying it was a Valyrian steel blade and not dragon glass?
Yes.
I've not seen the series, but that was an interesting theory people had about dragon glass in the series.
I think
through what you were saying, they did talk about the prophecy about Targaryen being on the Iron Throne to fight the Undead.
Yep.
I guess that's
so I do. It's been a while since I've watched the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones, but I think the dragon glass did kill the White Walkers, but it was the Valyrian, it was dragon glass and Valyrian steel, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And so when Arya killed the Night King, it was with the Valyrian blade that we saw in Hot D episode 1.
Yep. Exactly. So Valyrian steel and dragon glass would kill a White Walker.
Both are are in scant supply. Valerian steel particularly, and no one's seen dragon glass for a long time until it's like, oh wait, there's a bunch of it underneath this castle, the Targaryen leader bought. Yeah, no, and also, folks, I have a dragon glass dagger myself. It's just volcanic glass.
It's obsidian. I use it to pick my teeth.
Yeah, it's a very freckles now. But real quick, Steven or maybe can you just set the period of where Hot Tea takes place as far as game.
Yeah. So, my understanding, from having only seen the first episode once, is it takes place 172 years before Daenerys is born.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, that's where they kind of placed it in the timeline.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact year count, but yeah, it's 100-something years before.
And we have to see if it's nostalgia. He really piqued my interest when he told me that you get to see Matt Smith's asshole. Is that true?
Yes, there is a scene where Matt Smith is you basically see him full backside.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh.
I was thinking, I was like, what? Wait, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember now.
Yeah, obvious,
Yeah, I like how it's like we've had discussions about that. That's what your takeaway was. It's Matt Smith's ass.
One of my favorite doctors. There was a lot of cutaways at the BBC of him being naked in certain, in certain episodes, but to actually see Matt Smith's bare ass, that's worthy of mentioning.
He finally got around to flashing somebody.
He was definitely using his sonic screwdriver.
There we go.
Bonus points.
There you go. But also in the book, I think it was Samwell that finds that a dragonglass blade kills an other.
Yep.
And then also I find that the name the White Walker is so funny compared to the others. I prefer the name White Walkers because it seems like the others just seems lazy. I gotta say, George R.R. Martin, it's like you created this fantastic universe, and then just like, well, we're just gonna call it Cobra Law as a placeholder there. We'll circle back to that and come up with a better name. It's like, no, don't do that because stuff like that sticks.
Well, what's funny is there's a movie called The Others, so there may have been trademark issues.
Yeah, maybe. Well, yeah.
It's a great movie with Nicole Kidman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maria loves that movie.
I also oddly find the White Walkers less problematic than the others.
Mm-hmm.
Like outside of that universe, I'm talking about like in the way we refer to things in our like everyday life.
Right.
I feel like if they had gone with calling things the others, it could lead to some tricky socio-political commentary.
Right.
Racial issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, yes, I do believe that branding something the White Walkers, that's got a very much HBO TM on it. It's like, okay, I know what you're talking about. Whereas
Right, and it also...
the others can be very generic. It's like, what are we talking about? Like, those people? Like the others? Or it's like, no, we're talking about the HBO series, the Frost Zombies. And it's like, oh, okay, you mean the White Walkers. Yes. Because I do remember there being a little bit of a kerfuffle that people said, well, they're not called that in the books. It's like, yeah, but I also was like, the White Walker sounds a lot cooler.
It does.
It's like, because like I never read the books and I go, oh, really? What are they called in the books? They just call them the others.
For me, it's kind of like I always try to explain to people when they're sitting there bitching about how Harry Potter was perfectly cast except he didn't have blue eyes, is really get over it. It's like, well, why couldn't they have CG rendered his eyes blue or gave him? It's like they tried giving him contacts, they didn't work. By the way, he couldn't use them for whatever reason, probably because he was a little freaking kid. and trying to make him wear these, eye-changing hard contacts.
Terrible contacts.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So, not cool. It's like, yeah, let's just torture the poor kid. And, but yeah,
more
it's
stuff that we normally do than just the child actors.
yeah, but that's the whole point, though, is you have so many people that are sit there like, it's like, well, it's not exactly like I imagined it. And it's all like, cool,
Yeah.
you go raise $150 million and you go
Right,
make
right.
it then.
And
But yeah, it's people have to realize that a book has a lot more descriptive information in it than a movie does, because the movie has more visual information in it. It
Right.
doesn't need the descriptive information. And does the color of Harry Potter's eyes mean anything to the story other than you have your mother's eyes?
right.
All you have to do, like, I think that was enough. You don't have to show, like, you don't have to CG his mom to have his same eyes, or vice versa, to just to prove a point. The story was told well enough. You don't need that. And when people bitch about stuff like that, the name of a character or whatever, it doesn't work in the show. It doesn't work in live action. Works great in the book, does not work in live action because people forget it's a different medium. And I kind of like when people bitch about stuff like that, I almost just want to smack them and say, get over it. Like, totally, what is it? Moonstruck? Cher? Just bitch slaps her?
Step out of it.
Exactly.
I also, personally, I feel like White Walkers is much more descriptive than the others.
Yeah. The others is all like, who? The others. Which others? The others.
Right.
Like the Dornish?
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean? The French?
Yeah.
The White Walkers is very specific.
Oh, yeah.
And it also paints like an image in your head.
Well, the funny thing is, White Walkers to me is actually almost threatening. Whereas the others does nothing. I heard him talking and then he faded out.
So say it's like I don't get a sense of dread when
Yeah.
somebody says the others. But the White Walkers is like, okay, yeah, no, that sounds ominous, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not terrified by the others.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But also, I always thought the book names sounded more ominous because they were so unknown and vague that the known humanity had no way of understanding. Maybe.
I was gonna say I don't think with the in the books for me, no, because again it's the books have a description, and where they can almost working on Lovecraft stuff here. Let's use Lovecraft as an example because they would have kind of a thing where they would mention it's like, this is indescribable.
Right.
And you can do that in a book. You can say something is a horror beyond belief or indescribable.
Yep.
In a movie, it's got to be visual. You got to describe it somehow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so,
you gotta be able to describe it to the weather people.
yeah, because they got to make it work. And,
Yeah.
and so that's why I kind of think that it's more, it works better this way, than it does in, it works better as White Walkers than it does as the others, because you cannot use indescribable in a movie necessarily.
Right. But no, so I'll remind everyone again that I did not want to watch the series exactly for the reasons that came to be true. Or I did not watch it exactly.
So the funny thing was, is originally...
We were talking about this before. Like, Mandala, what if I asked you to, I want you to design a knife that's long enough to be used as a sword, sharp enough to be used as a razor, wide enough to be used as to paddle a boat, and heavy enough to use as a hatchet. Design me that knife. Go.
And I would like one too.
I would like to see what you come up with.
But yeah, that's,
Like-
for those who don't know, that was how we opened the show, talking about Bowie knives. That was the description of the Bowie knife. But yeah, it's, but a lot of people get lost in the whole, it's not true to my childhood. You've ruined my childhood because his eyes weren't blue.
Nope.
and that
Books are
just
still there.
yeah, and that's oh, that pisses me. Like when people got mad about Disney killing the expanded universe. It's like
Oh,
no,
yeah.
don't get mad at them for killing the expanded universe because those stories are all there. They're
They
legends.
didn't
They're
come to your house and take your books.
yeah, they
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
burn
yeah.
your collection. You still have them. It's like yeah, they're not
Well said,
canon,
well said.
but they're not canon so that they have room to make more stories because if they had done it canonically because it had taken so long to get the sequel trilogy made, we would have been engulfed in the middle of the second Galactic Civil War and the Yozan Vong War were both happening at the same time because Yozan Vong attacked towards the end of the Galactic Civil War, and that would have required too much. Like people who read the stories were like, "Oh my god, that would have been so cool to do," and it's like I absolutely agree. The problem is people who didn't read the stories would be like, "Who the fuck are these guys?"
Right.
They wouldn't
And,
know.
and not to completely side on the billion trillion dollar multinational company, but like if I'm going to spend as much money, like they spent however $4 billion, whatever it was, to buy Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
They didn't spend that much money for the books. They spent that much money for the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they want to shape the movies going forward the way they wanted to. And anything that I totally understand, like they're spending that much money, they're saying, okay, the movies are what's the standard, these are canon. Anything beyond that, we're going to change as we see fit. We'll incorporate things as we see fit, but we want a fresh start, meaning that only the movies. Look, I love Genndy Tartakovsky's 2D Clone Wars series. That's not considered canon. It's on Disney Plus. I love it. I watch it occasionally.
I own the DVDs.
Yes, they're one of the toys as well. But yeah. My point being is like the basis for all of this stuff was the movies, and they wanted to shape the future of their new toys the way they wanted to, and not have to be like, well, you have to do this. Like, well, it didn't happen in the movie, so like, do we have to?
Yeah. The other thing that kind of happened also was, George, God bless him, when if you came to him with a good idea, like good solid storytelling and stuff, he really was the kind of person who'd be like, "Oh, that's neat. Let's do it."
Yeah.
And he would greenlight things that might contradict another story. So that was one of the issues they ran into was the expanded universe, as amazing as a lot of the content was, and we'll say amazing as like 70% of the content was, you still had 30% of it that was conflicting, and the problem is of that 30%, some of it was really good stories. And what ends up happening is you now have to tell a story that might fit within one thing but doesn't fit within another because of the conflicting story in there. And so they were trying to get rid of those conflicts. And it creatively opens it up so that they can do more with the project if it's, if they don't have the expanded universe in the way. And so I absolutely understand why they did that originally. I do. That's one of the reasons why I respect Dave Filoni so much. Is he didn't like, some people at Lucasfilm and possibly Disney, I don't know, I guess they looked at the expanded universe as a wall. It was a hindrance. It was in the way. Whereas Dave Filoni would look at it and be like, there's some cool